All right, what up, y'all? Welcome to another episode of the Blacktop Podcast. So, before you watch the video version, I am so sorry, but I did hit it a little late, so this one's not going to be the complete episode. But if you click the link in the bio and all that stuff, links in the below or whatever, you will see links to our Anchor page, which will lead you to like Spotify, Google Podcasts, Apple Podcasts, anywhere where there's podcasts, and you can watch the full episode. But again, I apologize. Will not happen in the future. But yeah, regardless, thank you for tuning in. Welcome to another episode. I'll let y'all get right into it. Here you go.
For sure. I love that guy. That's all I
Yeah.
can say.
I just want to add his counting stats this year: 26.5 points a game, 8.2 rebounds, 4.2 assists, and 0.9 steals, which is basically a steal a game. He's shooting 33% from the field, which is just under the average. His field goal percentage has taken a hit, just considering he's taking. He's taking as many shots as he did last year, but it's a bit different considering where their season has kind of gone.
Mm-hmm.
But the one factor that I missed in my argument there is marketability. Everyone loves Jason Tatum. Everyone thinks that he's this heir apparent to Kobe Bryant, right? And the Celtics and Tatum alone get a lot of national media coverage. So that's already a big factor when it comes to the conversation regarding MVP. People praise him, and even though they were saying things like, dude's a ball hog, doesn't pass the ball, etc., 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 the guy is on the front. He's on the front page of the news, so to speak. And so that's a huge factor when it comes to arguing and discussing who's going to be the MVP. And Tatum's had that since he came into the league. And he's had playoff experience since he came to the league. So, I think all the encompassing things around Jason Tatum are just leading to him being an MVP getter at some point in his career. And I really feel like it could be next year considering just the way he's playing right now and the way it looks like he's carrying the Celtics as the number one guy. It's almost hard to argue that this guy is going to be MVP getter at some point.
Yes, I 100% agree. In my opinion, I think when it comes to like the Kobe disciples, I think Jason Tatum is better than Devin Booker in my opinion.
100%.
100%. Like Devin Booker's dope. Don't get me wrong, but I think the fact that Jason Tatum's 6'8" and he can do all of Kobe's moves is disgusting. That and he has a 7-foot wingspan. I think he will 100%. If it's not next year, he will definitely have one somewhere down the line. I think he'll be in that conversation for years to come. He's one of those guys that he's on the level of where you pencil him for All-Star right away. Like you're not ever even gonna question like, is he gonna do this, do that? I will say though, even though everybody calls him a ball hog, who's like the picture boy of that? Fucking Kobe, Bean, Bryant. And I think with like how his game has evolved, we see him how he's starting to pass a bit more. Granted that I think that all kind of stems from the fact that he kind of got called on that, but he's starting to do it a bit more. I think the main thing though is that as much as he does get buckets, I think it all is relying on him becoming a better passer because I don't think you can win the MVP on 4.2 assists per game. I think if you get up to like, if he averages like a solid, his numbers already are pretty in there, but I think if you give him a solid 27, 8, and 6, he's definitely in that conversation. This is a dude who is like the clutchest of the clutch. He's been in playoff situations already at such a young age. And yeah, I agree that I think the whole J and J thing was so dumb to be like, oh, can this work? Can this not work? Because these are two of the best young buckets in the game. Jason Tatum, I think, is definitely that number one option, as we were saying. But man, Jason Tatum is the fucking greatest thing since sliced bread when it comes to being able to do everything. I still remember the season opener last year, the sidestep game winner on Giannis. That was fucking cold. That was like one of the worst ways to start the season for the Bucks. But yeah, I think Jason Tatum, I would put him top 5, honestly. I would put him, honestly, probably around 5. But there's no doubt in my mind that he's up next.
Yeah.
He's definitely
Team success will matter too. Team success will matter. The only reason why I even have this take right now is because he basically carried. that whole team roster makeup was a little bit crazy to start the season, and then at some point they just figured it out and had to focus on the defensive end. But team success will matter. Their guys can grow. I mean, you have Robert Williams also, who's a really young stud at the
Yo,
center
I
spot.
love Robert
They have
Williams.
a good collection of veterans. They have a culture piece like Marcus Smart. They just added Derek White, who's still a fairly young player. Um, and it's not like they can't. It's not like Boston hasn't been a free agent. Boston is a free agent destination. They've been able to sign players, acquire players over the years. So I think, barring team success, like I think Boston can also be a top four team next year. There's no reason to say like all the chips can't fall into the bag, so to speak, for Tatum to be that guy.
Yeah, to add to that, I'm going to say this. Jason Tatum is the greatest Celtic since Larry Bird, man. Paul Pierce is great at all. KG's great at all. But I think when it's all said and done, Jason Tatum will probably be like the third greatest Celtic. Obviously, Bill Russell is somebody who's untouchable. Larry Legend is obviously the number two apparent.
Take
But I
on its own.
think Jason Tatum, I think he'll slide into that number three real nice. But man, that was super solid. Christian, bro, lead us home.
I don't know if this is a hot take because I think like there is some conversation to be made, but I think the Timberwolves will be a top five team in the West next year. Um, I just think to kind of see a progression in them finally like being in a playoff spot right now is enough to kind of, I think, get that conversation rolling just because we're finally starting to see like Carl Anthony Towns kind of come back into form of like what people have expected him to be. He's playing much better defensively. He's playing much more aggressive in the paint. Like he's definitely racking in like double doubles every night. And I know this because I have him on my fantasy team. He's number 4 in the fantasy world right now. So like, or he's number 3 actually. So life is good. But I think on a real note, like to have him like developing into the player they need him to be, to have Anthony Edwards still developing, being the next Michael Jordan apparently to some people, um, going into 6'6", and then having the assets to trade away. I do think like they could make a very similar run to what the Bulls pretty much did this year to pretty much like because they do have D'Lo, and I don't think it would be to any surprise that D'Lo probably moves in the summer. Um, Maybe not, but I think he will. Um, and then they have a ton of young players they could offload to pretty much build up like pretty much a like carbon copy of what the Bulls are now, except obviously with different pieces. Like Cat, in my opinion, is years ahead of Vucevic, but in the same sense where they have like stars they can pick up in free agency and kind of build a like core roster. Like I couldn't see why they can't be a top 5 team right now when I look at like the players or the teams that are top 5. I'm not saying the Suns will fall off, but Chris Paul does age. He is human. Um, the Jazz, they, I doubt they're gonna do anything in the off season, and I think the Timberwolves could be better than them. The Mavs and the Nuggets, like the Nuggets, are a team that I think are in that same conversation. So that's the one debate to be made. But then you look at the Clippers and the Lakers, and they're both in pretty shit situations, if I'm being honest, with aging stars and really no sense of direction. Um, and then in that same way, I don't mean to throw another take to this, but I think the Pelicans will be in a similar situation next year where they're going to be like a team that could be built into this year's Bulls. Um, so yeah, I just think like a lot of teams that are kind of around the middle table, bottom table, will reach the top of the table by next year. Um, I just think there's a new era incoming, is what I'm saying.
All right. I will say I agree. Only thing is, I feel like you let the core grow together because I think they have a really solid core. You obviously have, I think, what Jokic is as a passer in terms of like the single greatest in terms of the big men. I think that's Cat with shooting. I will say though, I would love to see Cat develop like. Obviously, it's a big if considering like he's the big man, But I mean, we see how Joel Embiid is so lethal in the fact that he's a 3-level scorer, and I think I would love to see Cat kind of continue to develop like the mid-range game. Granted, the fact that he's like one of the best shooters is, I'm not saying he needs it, but I think if you were to add that, I think that just gives a whole nother level of unguardability in a sense. Because I mean, we already seen that he already has a high release point, so it's very hard to contest his shot. Now with D'Lo though, I like him as their point guard because he can operate off ball. I feel, and I feel there's not really any other point guards in the market or at the level of D'Lo that you could get that I think would, be better than him. Granted, he's gotten a lot better defensively, I will say, but I just like the fact that he's developed a lot in terms of being off ball. I think considering when you have, Cat who's like needs the ball, Anthony Edwards who tends to hog the ball here and there. I like the fact that D'Lo has grown from being this guy who's just like taking 20, 30 shots sometimes to the fact where, if it's not his night, he's still facilitating the rock. And even like their other guys, I mean, which I think it's Jaden McDaniels. Yeah, Jaden McDaniels. He's one of my favorite young guys. I think he's a nice, solid, really solid 4. If you get some more muscle on him, I think he can definitely, like in my opinion, I think outside of Patrick Beverley, he's one of their primary stoppers, and he's played pretty solid defense here and there. But I think the biggest thing is Patrick Beverley. Because, I mean, this is a team that has had that reputation of, like, these are young guys that, don't want to listen, that don't want to, get on the grind, as Jimmy Butler was saying, stuff like that. But I think Patrick Beverley's really slipped into there and changed that culture, and you see that in how much success they've had. I mean, we've seen they have, I think it's either the most or second most 40-point, wins. I think as much as that is attributed to their high power offense, I think the change on the defensive end has to be attributed to that as well. But, I definitely agree. Granted, I don't know if the Suns would drop off necessarily because I think even though that
was just an example.
Yeah. But I think just to, kind of say it for what it's saying, I mean, the Suns are one of the deepest teams in the league right now. Granted, they got paid DeAndre that bag, and if they're not willing to, I don't know what's going to happen with that. But, I think, again, the West is very wide open in terms of, who's going to be that next team to really take the crown. Because there's not even really a team that has the crown. I think that just speaks to how, fluid it is. But, I agree. I think I would only say that I would keep D'Lo and let that core grow, though. But, Rubes, what you got?
It's definitely tough for me to be like, okay, I think they're gonna be a top contending team. The thing that I do like about the Wolves is they finally grew up, that core roster. I mean, it's mostly Cat, right? It's mostly Cat, and he's kind of taken the reins this season, and I think he's done it in a way that's super underrated, and it hasn't gotten enough shine. That he's become one of the best big men in the league, if not there's Jokic, Joel, Giannis, and Kat. That's that conversation, and he is the best shooting big since Dirk Nowitzki, and I think looking at the trajectory too of an Anthony Edwards, of a Jaden McDaniels, they also have a ton of young pieces, and I do love their coach Chris Finch, who came from the branches of Nick Nurse when he came into the league. He was assistant coach, and then they poached Chris Finch away from Toronto. I think and Chris Finch has a really good background in terms of his ability to coach, his ability to develop players, create a relationship with players, be able to get the most out of their guys from wherever he's been. He's a guy who's coached overseas. He's got a lot of experience coaching with different personalities. And I think that helps when you have a team with different personalities. Anthony Edwards is such an unorthodox guy. Cat is also a different guy. Patrick Beverley's a different guy. D'Lo's come from a number of different dramatic situations. We all know about his crap with Nick Young and all that stuff. I mean, you take in some of these guys who were kind of left off the board for whatever reasons, and they've come together. They've strung 5 wins in a row. There's 37-29, and that would be in the Eastern Conference, if I'm not mistaken, a top 6 team. Like they're in that conversation. So I mean, it's just about youth growing and giving them that chance to grow, and I think that organization has finally allowed them to, and like you said, develop a culture. So I'm liking their direction. I don't know if they would be a top five because like I'm looking at the Western Conference right now. Who the heck would fall off? Maybe the Jazz, maybe the Mavericks. I mean, the Jazz is probably the most likely team to me, just considering everything. But again, like Donovan Mitchell is also a really young superstar who is still continuing to grow. The Mavericks have Luka Doncic, so I'll take my chances with Luka Doncic any time of the week. And then, so I mean, I think the West next year. I mean, people were saying the things like the East is the deepest conference in the league. Yeah, that's for sure. But the West is still the strongest, and it's going to continue to show now. It's going to continue to show next year because these teams are going to grow. Like we said, the Clippers, the Pelicans, I agree with, are going to be a much better team next year if and when Zion comes back. And I also really like the direction of the Kings right now. I mean, I think even though they traded away Tyrese Halliburton, you get a full season of Sabonis. They're going to have a chance to pick up some new players in the offseason. So there's going to be a number of things that these franchises in the West can do. So, and the Timberwolves are definitely in that conversation of budding teams like the Grizzlies that can make a contention spot. So, yeah, it's just like the biggest thing for me is like you have to let the young talent grow and mature, and they've allowed that. And now you're kind of just seeing that happen. Sometimes you just have to let these teams be shit and then not be shit. That's pretty much it.
Yeah, shoot, these are all super solid takes. I think it makes it for some good conversations. I will say though, y'all, I kind of dropped the ball. I started the recording late. Granted, we'll have the audio version complete, but if you're watching this on YouTube, I am sorry. But that just that gives you more incentive to hop onto Spotify, Google Podcasts, all of that stuff. You could hear this whole conversation. But again, I am sorry. Now, moving on though, we got some solid talking points to talk about. I'm just gonna rifle them off. Y'all can say your thoughts on them. First one, KD's return. Excluding the kind of, not even necessarily a stinker, because it was still a solid game by like regular NBA standards, but KD did kind of have a stinker in terms of his standards. But excluding that game, his first two games he was averaging 34, 5, and 6 on 52, 38, and 95 splits. So I mean, how have y'all thought that KD's like made his return? Considering that, in my opinion, I think he's got to go like past MVP levels to really carry this team out of the play-ins. But yeah, I mean, what do y'all think?
What's much needed, right? They need their best player back. You needed him back. They were treading on deep waters at some point, right? Like, and they still kind of are. They're in the 8th seed right now, and that was a team that was fighting for the first seed about a month and a half, 2 months ago. So to have KD back is important, obviously, but again, you trade away James Harden, and your main piece from that trade still hasn't played, so that's still the biggest conversation. And while Kevin Durant, I mean, Kyrie has, 7 or 6 road games left to play. And if those mandates aren't lifted, which they said would happen on March 7th, they haven't. So really you're hoping KD has like a transformative rest of the season here to carry you. But I see them taking the 7th spot away from Toronto, considering Toronto's injuries. They're a young team. They're kind of treading water. They're treading water as well. So I think the highest they can reach is that 7th spot, but I think it was just a breath of fresh air for that franchise. They just needed it at the current moment, and I think it came at the right time.
Yeah, I don't know if I have really much to add to that. And I think like maybe the one thing that I will add, even though it's not exactly related to KD specifically, but I do think Ben Simmons' return is going to be what really propels this team, if anything, and obviously there's no timeline on that. Um, but yeah, KD obviously has shown that he can do wonders in the league. There's no surprise to that, and having Kyrie Irving possibly play more games will also be another factor. I don't know if there's any update on that. I know New York was lifting mandates and or possibly planning to lift mandates. But I do think Ben Simmons is really the real key right now, because he could definitely be the difference in terms of defense, in terms of facilitating, in terms of scoring, obviously too. Like he's still like a true triple threat player on the floor. And I mean, until he's back, it's hard to say where they're going to end up. KD is just going to have a lot of 40-point nights ahead of him. as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah, no, I think, in my opinion, I don't want to say this season's a wash, but I don't think we'll see. Well, we definitely won't see the peak of this team until I think around next year. Granted, if Ben's fully healthy, if that team's fully healthy, if they decide to give Kyrie the extension, because I think they decided to revoke it, I think, but I don't know if he's still got a year left. But yeah, no, I think for them to like securely, I think without a shadow of a doubt, not get caught in like the depths of the play-in, KD has got to become Wilt Chamberlain right now, man. I mean, but yeah, shoot. Heading from there though, let's talk about probably one of the hottest teams in the league to talk about right now. This team completely finessed, in my opinion. Granted, they got the best shooting guards since Kobe Bryant. It's the Sixers. I mean, they are on a current hot streak, in my opinion, excluding the game against the Heat where James Harden didn't play. With James Harden on the floor, Sixers have not lost a single game. Not only that, they've had a point differential of 10.4, which is like far above what the league best is right now. But I mean, I'll get in my thoughts at the end. But what are y'all opinions on this first little stretch of games with James Harden?
I mean, I can start, but it's scary, honestly. I think like it it is one of those things that I think people are gonna have to solve because I think the real take or the real takeaway is that like we've never seen Joel play with this level of a player up until now, and that's really unlocking a game for him. Like he's said it in a few post game interviews that he's never felt so open and he's never like felt so able to like move around on the floor. And I think for an MVP contender to say stuff like that, like, and then have James Harden playing the way he is, like, there's no like probable answer for this team right now, which I think really in hindsight, I think they're going to end up being the top team in the East. And then it's going to be up to, the playoffs for someone to knock them out. Um, that's just, maybe I don't think it's a hot take, to be honest. The Heat are a good team, but the 76ers are playing on a different level right now.
Yeah, I'm gonna take a really technical standpoint here, and the reason why I like that James Harden deal with Joel is because Joel's never run with a really dominant player with the basketball that can score from three levels and create for other players. Now, a lot of people talk, Charles Barkley makes a joke about you want the dribbler, the dribble, 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 that guy. James Harden with the basketball is as good as there is anybody in the league at creating shots and opportunities for others. And that's the big reason why he won MVP that one year. Um, and now he has the best big man in the league who can also score from anywhere on the floor. And the great part about Joel is a lot of his action starts from without the ball. So you're looking at the three top plays that I've been watching a lot, and is their DHOs, their dribble handoffs. Joel at the top of the key, or when he has the ball in the high post, does a lot for that team because he can create a lot of tension, suck in the defense, hit it out for an open shot. But what James is so good at doing is coming off of those dribble handoffs, coming off those screens, and then finding opportunities. Often when he's coming left, he can pull back for the three, and then he can make plays for everybody else. And Joel's a really good roller. And then when they run Chicago, which is basically screening the screener for shots away, flare outs, stuff like that, they have really good shooters on that team. Tyrese Maxey is playing at a whole other level because now he doesn't have to be the primary ball handler. He's a secondary ball handler. He's a guy who moves really well without the ball. He runs in fast. He runs in transition. And Joel is also a guy who facilitates. Like, there's been a lot of times this season where Joel has taken the ball off the board and brought the ball up himself. And so when your big man can do that, like we've seen with Denver and Nikola Jokic, that creates a lot of offense for everybody. And that's very difficult to stop. On the defensive end, you manage to keep Tyrese Maxey, you manage to keep Matisse Thybulle, you manage to keep Danny Green, you manage to keep obviously Joel Embiid, who's one of the best defenders in the league. He's your backline of defense. You have really good perimeter defenders. Overall, as a team, the way that they've meshed actually makes a lot of sense. And people were talking about, well, it's going to be really hard for them to have chemistry. Joel and James Harden are two of the perfect guys to place together because their styles of play basically breathe off one another. They don't take away from the guy. James has a ball and Joel sets screens. That's pretty simple. Joel can post up and James can dribble handoff. So in terms of like basketball play, those guys mesh really well, and you're seeing that. Like there's not been a team so far that looks like that they can impose their will on either end of the floor. And so that's what makes them so dangerous, and that's what they've lacked for the last few years, and why Philly has been so unsuccessful in all of their playoff series is because they just don't have that secondary guy outside of Joel that was able to create offense and basically create attention away from the guy. Now you have that, and Kenny Smith put it perfectly when the trade first happened. It was literally, okay, you can't double James now, and you can't double Joel. There's just absolutely no way you can do any of that. So, and when the game becomes a half-court game in the playoffs, that's where James and Joel and that two-man action becomes even more deadly, because there's no way in hell you're going to double those two guys. And they're going to garner a lot of attention on the offensive end. So, and then on the defensive end, we already know that they have very plus defenders. So, I mean, all it is, like, basically, long story short of what I'm trying to say is like, it's a perfect fit. And you're seeing that right now. They're peaking at the right time because they're playing really high-level basketball right off the trade. Usually there's a period where they're still adjusting to each other. They literally came out of the gates freaking banging, right? And they're going to continue to do that into the playoffs. And I don't see them falling off. The only thing that I'm really concerned about with the Sixers is James Harden's hamstring injury. Because it looks like it's still a nagging thing, and they are resting him for the hamstring. So that's the only thing that I would say if health is a concern. If anybody on that team within the rotation is injured, that's a huge problem. And they instantly become, what's the right term here? They're not going to be the contenders that everybody expects them to be if they even have one single injury. Even to a guy like Korkmaz or Georges Niang. Because they're such important parts of their bench rotation. They're shooters that open the floor. So, yeah, I mean they're a tight rotation, and if anyone out of those players, find themselves on an injury, they're gonna have trouble. So that's one thing I would watch with them. But not surprised with how hot they've been playing with James Harden.
I'm just gonna say it. I think when everything is said and done, if Harden stays with the Sixers for the rest of his career and rides into the sunset with Philly, I think there's an argument that him and Joel, if they had, okay, my main thing is that I think if we take them at the beginnings of the career and let that be, the team, I think they're a better duo, better like overall duo than Karl Malone and John Stockton. Because I mean, those are two of the greatest. Granted, fuck Karl Malone, he a little bitch, but I think that with John Stockton, obviously he's one of the greatest facilitators. He has the most assists and steals in NBA history. I'm not saying that, actually I am saying that. Fuck it, man. I think they'd be a better duo just because of the fact that pick and roll is unguardable, considering, just like Kenny said, it's impossible to double team them. Because, I think the main thing, though, that's would really hamper them, I think, is for Tobias Harrell to really carve out his role. Because we've known him to be a very streaky person. He can have 20 one night and then, 8 points the other night. I think their main way of success outside of Tobias Harris would also be, I think Matisse Thybulle is probably the biggest X factor considering that he's their starter, but he also doesn't give you that much on the offensive end. Granted, you don't really need that from him because he is your premier defender, but I think even if he were to average, because he averages what? Probably about I want to say 6 points. Let me fact check that though. Yeah, no, he averages 5.8 points. I think if you bump that up to 8, even 10, I think that just eases us off the pressure a lot more, off of your two guys. And this team I think is built to really be successful in the playoffs. James Harden, we've seen, is one of the best passers right now. Joel Embiid is in the MVP conversations, and he's looking unstoppable right now. I agree, though. They're peaking at the right time. Everything, I think, is coming up Philly right now. But I think the biggest wild card is definitely James Harden's hamstring, Tobias Harris. and Matisse Thybulle and Doc Rivers in the fourth quarter.
I want to counter your point really quickly about Tobias. I don't think he's that important as we all thought. I don't think he's that crucial. He just has to be a threat on the floor. I think what we've seen carve out happen is Tyrese Maxey become that third option. Mm-hmm. And he's become a consistent third option for them. And if Tobias is at the very least a threat on the perimeter and can defend at an average level and rebound at an average level, I think that's all you need from him. Because what Tobias brings is just a level of attention on the perimeter. And Thybulle will do what he does, is hustle stats and defend the best player. So those two guys, I think, are those blue-collar mesh guys. And I think, well, we all expected, okay, this trade would happen. Tobias has to figure out his way to be the third option. Is he going to be consistent? I think what's happened here is a complete 180, and Tyrese Maxey, who we all thought would be, okay, he's just going to be the nice young piece that fits. He's basically become their X factor. Like, I think Tyrese Maxey is super important to what they do, and the way he plays off of James Harden, I think has also been the biggest takeaway from that trade, because I feel like his growth has accelerated even more. Because now he has to find his offense different ways. Now he has to be consistent when he has the ball in his hands. And now he becomes the main guy defending the other team's best perimeter guard or best guard. So I think Tobias obviously is important. And if he's crap, then it's obviously going to hamper them. But I think that the onus is basically on Maxey being as good as he is now in the playoffs. Just considering the way that they've been running an offense through him, with him, regardless, besides James and Joel.
You are 100% right. Yeah, no, I think the main thing, is just the fact that Tobias Harris will always, be held to a higher standard just because he's on that contract. But no, I agree. Tyrese Maxey is undoubtedly their third option. But shoot, heading from there, though, from a team that's very hot, let's talk about some teams that are cold. Granted, Golden State won today, so this doesn't really apply to them as much. But prior to that win, two of the top teams, Chicago and Golden State, have really been on a struggle. Chicago's still on their losing streak at 5 straight. But obviously, as I said earlier, Golden State obliterated the Clippers today and ended their 5-game losing streak. But man, shoot, how are y'all feeling about this? Because well, I guess since Christian said he's a Golden State fan as well. Granted, it's not because bandwagoner, but let's say Christian, bro, what you think about this with their these teams' recent struggles?
I think for the Warriors, I think it's a cool thing for them, or at least it's pretty casual, just because they are, if I'm not wrong, still missing Draymond. And he is by so many definitions one of the most key players on that team. He is more key than Clay for sure. He in many ways plays as much of an influential roles in a lot of different departments as Steph. He is granted that he's been out for a bit, he was the kind of chalked in defensive player of the year at one point for sure, and still is contending for it undoubtedly. And he also is always flirting with a triple double. He is one of the bigger facilitators on that team. As much as Steph obviously is Steph, Draymond takes away that pressure a lot, and so having someone like Otto Porter Jr. fill in that space, I think, is what's kind of their Achilles heel right now. Just because Draymond isn't a replaceable player for them. As long as he does come back at some point before the playoffs and they are kind of primed with him, I don't see a problem for them. I think honestly too, if I'm being completely honest, this is kind of my same take with the Chicago Bulls, is that they've obviously shown that, with a healthy roster, they are still one of the best teams in the East. I probably would have said the best team in the East before that Nets and 76ers trade, but I'm going to hold off on that take now. But I definitely think they play at that caliber that the 76ers are playing out when they're healthy, um, just because of the depth of that team, like the kind of roles and um, styles that they have with like people like Lonzo and Caruso kind of being like the backbone of the defense, and then having obviously Vooch be Vooch and DeRozan playing, I can't. It's hard to make these takes that I had last week, saying that he was like a top three um, MVP discussion, and I still believe it in a lot of ways. But man, the 76ers have really been turning it up lately, and it's the MVP race I think is starting to close in. But regardless, I just think that the Bulls, when they are healthy, are as good as the 76ers and any team that you. So I'm not worried about the teams. I just think it's going to land on a lot of circumstantial things, and that really is just health. Um, I'm not really concerned about the losing streaks, though. I'd say.
Yeah, I mean, I would pretty much agree with Christian. Nothing much to add in terms of health for both teams is obviously a hampering issue while they're struggling. But I will say that there's more cons for the Bulls considering they're half a game back. I mean, the Cavaliers are only a game back of the fourth, and the Raptors are only 3.5 games from the Bulls. Um, Sorry, 3.5 games from the Cavaliers for the plans for the sixth spot. So if the Bulls continue this losing streak, or if they continue down a negative path in terms of their record, they could find themselves in the play-in, right? So I mean, and there's only what there's about from today. I think there's 15, 14 to 16 games left on the schedule. I haven't calculated it correctly for the Bulls record, but they could very much fall into a play-in spot, which is not what they envisioned when they finished like near when they were at top of the conference just a couple of weeks ago. So that's a huge issue for them. For the Warriors, I think we all know how important Draymond is, like you mentioned, Christian. So I won't touch on that. But I think the positive coming out of this is the fact that their guys Kaminga and Moody are getting really significant run, and that is huge for their development. That's huge. So when you can be a championship contender and your best players are sitting out and your young players are stepping in, and Kaminga had a great day today. Moses Moody had a great day the other one, the game the other night. That's really important for your internal development because at least now you have two more guys that you can throw into the rotation that can be relied upon to perform and obviously produce. So that's huge. That's huge. That's the biggest takeaway. And it's not like the Golden State Warriors are any less of a championship contender now. I mean, they're getting Draymond back on Monday. I mean, they're still they're still a favorite to win the title, or at least one of the favorites. And then you basically say, oh hell, like two of our lottery picks, Kaminga and Moses Moody, are also reliable NBA players in the rookie seasons. That's really that's you can come away with some really good positives for the Warriors here. So I mean, I don't see them continuing the losing skid when Draymond's back on Monday. And like overall, it's also good for a franchise that your two young players are showing out when they're getting the opportunity. So, and for me, the Warriors, I'm not really that worried about them. For the Bulls, I am considering like how close they can actually be to being in the play-in, and they're also without Caruso and Lonzo Ball for a significant period of time. So, yeah, Bulls, I'll watch out for. Golden State, I'm not too worried about, considering the points we just raised.
And they still got Jordan Poole. It's a pool party every day.
Yeah, no, I think those are all valid points. I will say though, for the Bulls, I think you also kind of give that youthful run in the sense that, I mean, in my opinion, Ayo Dosunmu is the steal of the draft this year. I think he's undoubtedly one of the best players in like, no, I was about to say league. He's undoubtedly one of the best players in the league. I would say he's the best like defender in terms of the guard position. Because Evan Mobley is, I mean, the last guy we thought would make an All NBA selection as a rookie was Tim Duncan. So that's his own thing, which we'll talk about next. But yeah, I think as alarming as the situation is, I think the biggest positive is the fact that you get run for a guy like Ayo Dosunmu. I mean, he's had, I think it's like a 15 or 18 assist game this season. I mean, you don't ever really expect that from a rookie. You expect, solid minutes here and there, but I think really stepping into that point guard role, granted that they're down their two like primary point guards, I think is good in the sense that when it comes playoff time, when those guys are like are still dealing with their injury in a sense, or just the fact that they need a fresh set of legs or another person to give teams a different look. I think with these struggles comes the flowers that Ayo Dosunmu I think will be more poised for playoff basketball. Granted, he's already been in those situations playing at Illinois and being, in those top teams for so long. So, yeah, I mean, as much as it sucks to lose, I think the fact that all these young guys are getting their playing time is real nice. But, all right, last thing. What does the Jarrett Allen injury mean for the Cavs?
I think it's the same situation in the Bulls as I mentioned. Like they're only the Raptors are 3.5 games back of the Cavaliers. Even though they've won two, here's what I like in Jared Allen too. He is what Rudy Gobert is to the Utah Jazz. Right? He is one of the best roll men in the league in the pick and roll. He's a threat on the boards. He can finish around the rim, and obviously he controls and dominates and anchors that back end of the line defensively. And we're gonna truly see how impactful of a defender Evan Mobley is when they know that the back line of defense is just Evan Mobley and not Jared Allen and Evan Mobley. And I think a lot of the defensive flowers that Evan Mobley's gotten, I think, has been overrated to some sense, considering the fact that he is playing alongside Jared Allen. So, I mean, that's one point I want to raise regarding that. So that injury will be a really big, will be impactful to that team in terms negative wise. But it's also in the same sense that Evan Mobley's going to get time. And it's not like the Cavaliers lack any depth in terms of the front court. I mean, they have Dean Wade, who's been playing really well. Kevin Love is in the conversation for Sixth Man of the Year. He's playing underrated basketball right now, and I think he's only playing like 18 to 22 minutes, but he's producing. Like hell, he's playing incredibly well. They still have Lauri Markkanen, and obviously Evan Mobley, like we mentioned, who I think is going to end up winning Rookie of the Year, as much as I want to give it to Scotty Barnes. So yeah, I think that there's a huge impact in terms of how the team is going to perform, but if I'm the Cavs, I'll take that as a huge win because at least now Evan Mobley is going to get a lot more time to develop, and he's going to be put in a lot more uncomfortable positions where Jared Allen was saving his ass, right? And in terms of the backline of defense. So he's got to anchor that now. So I think that's really good development time for him. But if you're looking at the playoff conversation, even though the Raptors have lost 3 straight, they're literally only 3.5 behind the Cavaliers. So and obviously the Brooklyn Nets just won tonight. So yeah, it's still going to be a battle for that playoff spot, and they could also very well be in a play-in position.
Yeah, I think they honestly will end up in a play-in position. Regardless of their depth, I think if it's not the Nets, the Raptors are still obviously showing a lot of promising hope. And in terms of health, I do think, I mean, I don't keep up with the Raptors that much these days, but considering Sexton and both Jared Allen are both out now, I do think the adjustment is going to be pretty major to their team. And as Ruben kind of mentioned, I don't think Evan Mobley is going to be able to anchor the ship because, their whole style of play is really based off of the 3 towers. And, when you take down one of pretty much the main tower, arguably, I do think there's going to be a hole to be filled. And I don't think they have, exactly what it takes to kind of hold on to their spot when you look at who's behind them. They're obviously going to still contend pretty well, and I think even if they end up in the play-in, they'll probably be the team to come out of the play-in. But given that he's out indefinitely for now, Jared Allen, I do think this season might be chalked for them. But that being said, I think they're still one of the better teams in the East, undoubtedly.
Yeah, I mean, I think you all raise very valid points. I think the only thing I want to add is that I think if they're able to secure the sixth spot and be in a playoff position, I think that secures the rookie of the year as well, in my opinion. Because I think, you know, Scotty definitely had the first, I think, the early start. I think he's had the more flashiness in the fact that he can play point. But yeah, I think this is really going to be Evan Mobley's like make it or break it chance. Because I mean, today he had a solid game. I mean, what, 22, 12, and 3 with 5 steals, a block, and I think he had 4 block assists as well. And yeah, I do agree with Ruben that I think some of the defensive prowess is overrated in the sense that it's a lot like how Tim Duncan played behind David Robinson. So I think with that, though, that really throws him into the fire, and we've seen how he's been able to like rise up to the occasion. Now, I'm not saying he's gonna clamp like the 260s and the fucking 300-pound big men pounding at him, but yeah, I think the fact that he's the primary big man now, if they're able to stay afloat in the playoff race and not drop to the play-in, I think that secures the Rookie of the Year award for him. But from these topics, let's get into the bread and butter, the cream of the crop of this podcast. We got the Blacktop Showdown. Now, Christian, pick a number 1 to 4.
1.
1. Okay, your first player, Will Barton. Ruben,
Nice.
2 to 4.
3.
3. You got Devontae Graham.
Ooh, okay. Okay.
All right. We will have Christian go first, but let me just share this timer thing. Boom. All right. Christian, you good to go? You got the basketball reference out? You good?
Sorry, I'm not speaking because I'm trying to do some reading really quick.
But yeah, we got I think two polar opposites in my opinion. We got one of the savvy vets in Will Barton. Granted, Devontae Graham's not like young, but he is on the younger side. And this is a guy that was in MIP conversations the other year. Actually, I'll stop talking because I don't want to take away in potential Ruben's points. But I think this is going to make for a good matchup. But Christian, you good to go?
Yes.
Okay. Christian for Will Barton in 3, 2, 1, go.
All right. So, if I'm being honest, like we've done this a few times now, and we've obviously seen or brought up in conversation that height is a big thing. I had to search up Devonta Graham's height. It's a 6'6" versus 6'1" fight. That being said, it's not even doesn't even come down to that. But Will Barton, um, like even with his height and stature, is like an offensive threat. And he's not even the first option. He's had two 30-point games and multiple 20-point games this season. And obviously that's with, shouldering the burden of Jamal Murray out. But even with that being said, he obviously hasn't been the main option all year round, and they've been testing other players, and he hasn't even been healthy. So I think in a really a ISO situation or a blacktop situation, like I don't think a 6'1" guard that is, assist heavy and a really bad perimeter shooter is going to take on like a primed Will Barton.
Okay. Ruben for Devontae Graham in 3, 2, 1, go.
Yeah, Will Barton's a solid athlete who can score the ball a little bit, but is also a very negative defensively. And so while size plays a part, size can definitely get negated when you have the ability to score from 3 places. When you're a 3-level scorer that can shoot the ball, attack the rim, create off the dribble, which is exactly what Devontae Graham does. He is a really solid one-on-one isolation player. He was in the conversations for most improved player of the year. He's dropped 40 points in the game before. I mean, it's not like this guy hasn't been in those big situations before. at least in terms of basketball games and being able to score with the ball in his hands. So if you're giving him possession, he has the ability to score from anywhere on the floor. And when you face a guy that you know is a negative defensively, oftentimes you have the confidence and the ability to get wherever you want to and score the basketball. And so that's what one-on-one blacktop showdown is all about.
Alrighty, let me set this up real quick. Alright, Christian, your rebuttal. 3, 2, 1, go.
So I think kind of calling him out for being a negative defender is a bit of a stretch. I wouldn't say he's all that bad considering he's had multiple seasons where he's almost pretty much averaged a steal a game, with a few seasons that he has. And that's obviously being like a third option, not guarding the best player most times than not. And I think that says a lot already on its own that he's not really that negative of a defender. So I think Ruben's argument is pretty much invalid there.
Right, with the wave off. Okay. All right, Ruben, your rebuttal. 3, 2, 1, go.
Yeah, I mean, Devontae Graham also averages steal a game, so I mean, it's not like he's a negative defender either, and and he doesn't guard the best players either. So I think also part of that conversation is a little bit of a wash too. I think these guys, in terms of defensively size, I don't know if really would play a part. Will Barton is a really good athlete who's played off of really great players, while Devontae Graham is a guy with the ball in his hands and score from anywhere and get buckets.
Alrighty, I think you all raise very valid arguments. If I had to give it to someone, though, I'd have to give it to Ruben. I think just off the fact that I think Christian, you really leaned into just the fact that he was bigger and you didn't really speak much on his offensive game. Granted, I do think actually no, not granted. Yeah, I think the only hole I would say with Ruben's is that he pointed that, if he has possession, which I think already kind of gives an asterisk in a sense, but I just think the fact that Ruben was kind of bringing up both facets of his game and kind of saying how, Devontae Graham's a hooper. I got to give it to Ruben there. Sorry, Cuzzo. But,
all right.
Right.
Whatever.
Ruben, would you like to switch out with a six-man here?
Do I get to know the options?
Yeah, I'll let you know the options, and then if you want to, we'll spin for it. So
Okay.
Your potential replacements are either Malik Beasley or Dennis Schroeder.
Ooh, okay. You know what? Okay, let's spin him. Let's see if I can get a different player.
Okay. Bring this up. All right, we will say 1 is Malik Beasley, 2 is Dennis Schroeder. Bang. All right, Malik Beasley. Let me bring up Dennis Schroeder here. Okay, let me set up my minute here. Boom, bang, boom. Okay, I guess me for Dennis Schroeder in 3, 2, 1, go. Now, when it comes to having a nickname like Dennis the Menace, he's a dog. Dennis Schroeder is a guy that he fumbled the bag, but the best part is that he laughed at him with himself. Granted, this is a guy that's been in 6 Man of the Year conversations. He can create at 3 levels. I think he's really good when it comes to hanging around the hoop, when it comes to, finishing at the hoop as with the layups. And the fact that I think he comes off the bench is just more firepower to the fact that he's a hooper, because, this is a guy that you don't need to give him the 28, 27 minutes a game. He can come off whenever and start hooping. And when it comes to that, he's averaged almost 20 points off the bench when it came to Atlanta. And this is a guy that, super duper solid. He was somebody that was brought in to potentially be that guy with the Lakers. Didn't happen. But Dennis Schroeder is a certified hooper and is the best German since Dirk Nowitzki. All right, Rubes. In 3, 2, 1, go.
So Dennis Schroeder, I don't know if he's a third level scorer. I think he's a really good playmaker. He's a really good off ball secondary guard. I don't know if he's the offensive threat that you might put him out to be, considering the fact that last year, when he was given the opportunity to be the lead guard or play off of great players and be the playmaker that they needed on the offensive end, he wasn't able to be that. We also saw that so far with the Boston Celtics. And, that's considering he's playing with some really great talent around him. In a one-on-one situation, granted, he's a solid defender, but Malik Beasley is also a solid defender. If you're looking at his overall defensive percentage, it's over 0.7. So he's a positive defender. Obviously, he's a 6'4", 6'5" point guard, shooting guard who can score from all three levels because he is a 38% shooter. He can attack the rim. He's also a very good athlete. So in a one-on-one situation with the size and all the talent around him he can get buckets.
Alrighty, my rebuttal. In 3, 2, 1, go. Now, when it comes to playing with great players, I think Malik Beasley falls into that as well. Granted, Dennis Schroeder might have had, a few ups and downs, but again, with a name like the Menace, this dude was bred for the blacktop. This dude is the greatest player since German Jesus to come out of the Deutschland, and I think the fact that he is coming from the international waters gives him an edge that Americans can't really have, in my opinion. Now, again, this is a dude who's in conversation. Oh shoot! Damn, that 30 seconds gets on you quick. Okay. All right, Ruben. Oh, bro, wait, well, did the... Oh, frick.
Yeah, stop recording.
Yeah, okay. Let me get this back in real quick. Why did you stop, buddy?
But you still have the main audio file, right?
I'll have it for this recording, but it cut out, right when I finished, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Let me get this back in.
But it's gonna... So you have if you re-record and restart, you still have the first file?
Yeah, I'll still have the prior one.
Okay, perfect. I was gonna be like, well, fuck, did we lose that whole thing?
I'm confused here, y'all. Come on. Maybe I have to tell him to leave first. Oh, not record. Why are you being like this then, buddy? Let's join. Okay, we're back. Alright. Okay, Ruben, your rebuttal. 3, 2, 1, go.
So if we're talking about technical standpoint, checking it up top, let's look at the defensive percentage here. So from greater than 15 feet or at the 3-point, that's often where possession will start. Malik Beasley has a defensive field goal percentage of 34.3% greater than 15 feet and 34.8% from 3. So already when he is defending the perimeter position where the game starts, he's going to have the game up. On the offensive end, he's got size and offensive ability to go anywhere he wants to.
Hi, Christian. Who you got?
All right. This is tough because this is how I saw it and heard it very clearly with my ears. Ruben had a very bad start, talking about Dennis Schroeder for more than half his time. And he only touched on Malik Beasley very shortly. Then DJ had a very bad ending, really giving no true facts about Dennis Schroeder, just calling him a dog and a German player. And Ruben pretty much pulled out these advanced stats out of his ass because we stopped recording for a second. So I'm at a standstill here because I'm trying to decide who ended up winning the argument. I'm gonna have to give it to DJ. I just think Like, Ruben really dropped the ball because he complimented Dennis Schroeder a few times in that 30 seconds, and um, some takes here and there were like a little controversial. And DJ, I would say, if you really want to win the argument, just you know keep looking at stats.
But I gave negatives because I was talking about how shit of a playmaker he was with the Lakers and the Celtics.
Hey, fuck
Only-
playmaking when it comes to the blacktop, baby.
Yeah, assist stats to me are like, yeah, that was one of the things I remember hearing too. Is just like assists do matter, just like not right now. If this was a 2-on-2 blacktop, that would be a difference.
That's what I was saying. Like he was given the option to be an offensive creator for those teams when they needed him, and he wasn't able to. He wasn't able to capitalize on his opportunity.
I gotta say, it's a controversial W for DJ. Like both of you guys kind of tucked asset
Hey.
debating at some point.
Hey, that was my first W. I'll take it.
Listen,
Hey, fuck it,
listen,
man.
it's
Dennis
like
Schroeder's the
arguing-
best German of all time.
It's honestly hard arguing for Malik Beasley. Okay, like that's I should have just stayed with
I'm not
Devontae
gonna
Graham.
lie. I was hoping you would have brought up the fact that he can jump.
I did. I said he was a really good athlete.
Did you? Oh fuck! You should have just said he could have just fucking. He would have had his nuts hanging on Dennis Schroeder's shit. If you said that, I think that would have won you.
Oh yeah, for sure.
But with that though, Ruben, it's okay. You get first pick of this next one. 1 to 4.
3.
3. Miles Turner.
All right.
All right, Christian. 1 to 4.
Yeah. Miles Turner, a channel favorite. 1 to what?
1 to 4, just not 3.
Okay, I'll choose 4.
Ooh, Zion Williamson.
Those guys aren't even on the same tier.
This is,
All right.
this is the tier where it's. Yo, what the fuck? Dang, y'all are the ones that need back shots, man. Okay. Ruben for Miles Turner. In 3, 2, 1, go.
Is there anything to be said about Miles Turner? Defensive anchor, versatile defender, mobile on his feet, 6'10", can shoot from 3, underrated ability to handle the ball and post up. He's got game anywhere on the floor. You give him the ball, he can create. He's got the size advantage over Zion Williamson, who's only a 6'7" power forward and 7,000 pounds. So if you give Miles Turner the basketball, who's also very mobile, can stay in front of any athlete, and we've seen him. He's had some awesome dunks. He's had some great finishes, some great blocks, and he's also the perfect defender to put on any team because of his ability to be switchable. So regardless of the offensive player that he's facing, whether it be Zion Williamson, he's got the strength and the defensive IQ, the mobility to keep up with a guy like that. And on the offensive end, he can give him buckets from anywhere on the floor. Bang.
Damn, bro, you have to go in on Zion like that? But all right, Christian. For Zion Williamson. In 3, 2, 1, go.
All right, so we have to remember in the Blacktop Showdown that essentially we are looking at players at their best. And so Zion Williamson, although 7,000 pounds right now, in his prime is 284 pounds. And at 6'6", compared to a 6'10" player who isn't known for playing in the paint, I don't think there is an argument to be made there. In terms of Zion being like the player he is in his prime, he was 6th in field goal percentage in his prime year. He was also 6th in field goals and then 8th in field goal percentage. And that was in his second year of the NBA. That being said, he's had multiple 30-point games, and he obviously is a plus defender. He has, enormous hops. We've seen it in like multiple games, both college and NBA. And I think there's like no range of athleticism that Miles Turner could have to defend Zion Williamson.
Alrighty. Let me see.
And he isn't 7,000 pounds.
Alright, Ruben. Your rebuttal. 3, 2, 1, go.
The argument for Zion Williamson is as a finisher is really good. But again, you start possession out at the top, And Miles Turner is a very mobile defender with length to guard anywhere on the floor. When it comes to the paint, we all know Miles Turner is a really well-known shot blocker and ability to protect the paint and to protect the rim. So I like his chances on the defensive end. Excuse the train in the background. On the offensive end, he is also a very good perimeter player. So while he's not a post player, possession starts up top.
Alrighty. With the train distraction as well. But I didn't phase the man. Christian, your rebuttal. 3, 2, 1, go.
I just gotta say, like, if we're talking about, starting at top with all these circumstantial opinions that Ruben loves to throw, you might as well throw in the fact that Zion can shoot threes too. He is a true 33.3% shooter in his career, and although that's not like all-time great, he is still agile in terms of scoring on a 3-level basis. His true rebounding stats are at 7 with 3.2 assists, if that matters too. But truly, he is a player that can beat Miles Turner. Miles Turner's ass. Miles Turner's doo-doo doggy shit.
Miles Turner is a championship piece to any team.
Why the fuck's he still on the Pacers?
Miles Turner's stuck on the Pacers.
Miles Turner is in mediocrity in mediocrity.
Miles Turner's in the trenches.
I will say,
back shots.
before that, I think you all raised very valid points. I will say though, I mean, he can shoot threes, but Christian, you were a little loose with that. Saying that is the 3-level score. I don't know, but I think he can. He can stretch if need be.
I mean, do you remember that one? Was it his premier game where he hit like 4 threes in a row? This dude still has a shot. Like, let's not forget that.
Yeah, but when it comes to the 3 levels, I ain't never seen Zion take a shot off the dribble.
It don't matter.
He does all his.
Turner's had some step back jumpers this year, so
we haven't seen the dude play in a while. So it's all.
Dude. You talking about who hasn't played in a while? Look at that, Williamson. Or he's start. Well, they both have. Is Miles Turner playing right now, or is he still like kind of dealing with his toe?
Injured. They're both injured. One is a twig, and one is 7 million pounds. One I could lift with a finger. One is heavier than the Titanic.
Jeez, yo. I think I gotta go with Miles Turner though.
No way, bruh.
Nah, I gotta give it to Rubes there because I think the one thing I would have loved to talk about, Christian, is the fact that he averaged 27 with a lot of that being in the post. And granted that that's a smaller man, a lot of that work was done, I think, against considering that he does primarily play the 4. These are guys who are like 6'9" and above. Would have loved to see you touch on that. But yeah, no, I gotta give it to Rubes here.
I mean, if I'm being completely honest, I know we're just like have a single judge, but I definitely mentioned a lot of his paint play. And I've mentioned that at his size and Miles Turner's size, he would be better in the paint. I definitely mentioned that. I don't think it needs to be like implied more that like he would eat him up in the paint. But you know what?
I will say, if you reiterated that instead of calling him a 3-level scorer when he's not, I think that would have fared better in your favor.
I mean, if I'm being completely honest, Ruben just mentioned Miles Turner's 3-point shooting like he's fucking cat. He's good, but this dude's like had like 5-point games like in numerous succession during this season.
I mean, he's averaging 35%. I mean, it's also like he's not even the number 1 option on the team. So,
well, I mean, Zion's career 3-point percentage is 33.3%. That's 1.7% difference.
But you have to look at Zion. He's a player that gets assisted on a lot of his baskets.
I mean, that's an arguable. Like that's an arguable. Like every player kind of gets assisted on their baskets. That's okay. Anyways, whatever. You know what? If you want to give Ruben that one, you can. But I definitely mentioned some of the points that you were arguing for. And Ruben talked all about 3-point shooting like he's fucking Steph Curry. So you know what?
Big man at 35% for his career? Damn, I don't know.
And Zion's at 33.3%. I mentioned that.
Yeah, but he starts in the perimeter.
I'm fucking Zion's at the perimeter on the blacktop too. What kind of fucking every time Ruben argues, it's like, oh man, if he starts with possession, it's over. Like fucking Zion can start and hit a 3-2, man. Anyways, let's just get to the next one. Get this shit out of my face. Some bullshit opinions going around here. Throwing around what ifs like Zion wouldn't lose to fucking Miles Turner.
Hi, Ruben. Your potential switches are Christian Wood and Julius Randle. Do you want to switch?
Oh, dude, yeah, give me the.
No, Miles Turner is better than both those guys.
Get Miles Turner out of here, fam.
Okay.
Nah, man, Miles Turner is years ahead of those players.
Yeah, let me tell you why. He's average career shooter 35% from three. If he starts with possession, bang.
Okay. One is Christian Wood, 2 is Julius Randle.
Give me number 1, please.
Oh, you got Julius Randle.
All right, whatever.
All right. I will argue for Christian Wood. All right. I will start. Oh, wait. Let me bring this. Let me start this. Boom, boom. Okay. For Christian Wood, 3, 2, 1. Now, Christian Wood is the definition of a dog. This is a dude whose fucking girlfriend left him when he went undrafted, and he's grown into one of the premier centers in this league. He's a walking 20 and 10 a night. He is a career 37.5% from 3. And he's doing it on a crappy Rockets team. Granted, you know, there is a bit of an attitude issue, but that's because the man wants to win. There's nothing you need more on the blacktop than a man who wants to win. You know, Julius Randle is cool and all, but he's been a fucking bum this year. If he starts with possession, Christian Wood is 6'10". Julius Randle a little undersized. You know, I granted he's maybe 6'9", 6'8", but Christian Wood is a dude that can stretch the floor, bang around in the paint if need be, and just the fact that, again, this dude's a dog. He made it out the trenches from fucking undrafted. I will say I wish he was still a Buck, but, you know, this dude has blossomed into one of the premier centers in the league. Top 10 in my opinion. But Rubes for Julius Randle. 3, 2, 1, go.
If you're talking about a down year, 20 points, 10 rebounds, 5.2 assists is a down year, give it to me. The dude is also a 20 and 10, a proven NBA All-Star. If I'm not mistaken, he was an All-NBA player last year with the Knicks. I mean, the dude is a bucket getter. He's also big. He's also 6'8" and 6'9". He's got the mass, and he's also a very good defensive player when he wants to play defense. So on a blacktop showdown where you're going one-on-one and you have no choice but to play defense, he can play defense. I mean, he's playing in Tom Thibodeau's system. That's what he did last year, and that's why the Knicks were one of the best defensive teams in the league last year when he was their backline and he was their number one option offensively. Julius Randle is a real 3-level scorer. A lot of his offense comes from the mid-range, but he can shoot the 3, he can create, and also he's a very good paint scorer. So on both ends, he's dominant.
Alrighty, my rebuttal in 3, 2, 1. Now, when it comes to defense, Julius Randle, you know, he's aight. But I think the fact that there's been multiple games where Tom Thibodeau has chose to go with his bench instead of his starters, I think is really telling of the fact that when it comes down to it, Julius Randle don't want no smoke with Christian Wood. Christian Wood, there was 1 year he had an offensive rating of 123 and a defensive rating of 110. That is insane. This is a dude who has been in the gutter and has really risen out of it and amassed many flowers, and he'll be the centerpiece of this new Rockets team once they're in the playoffs. But Rubes, your rebuttal. 3, 2, 1, go.
All right, so I'm going to share with you some advanced stats again. Overall, he allows people to score 46% on the field from him. He allows people for 2-pointers, 52% defensive field goal percentage, 60% field goal percentage from less than 6 feet, 58 from less than 10 feet. Those are the places where Julius Randle likes to operate. So he's going to dominate him on that position. He's also got a 0% difference percentage. So he's going to have a hard time guarding Julius Randle.
All right, Chin. Who you got?
I think I'm giving that one to Ruben. Man, this guy's good at debating. I must say we're gonna need to bring someone on to debate with this guy.
Yeah, Ruben's the master debater, bro.
Master Bader.
Master.
Oh.
I'm not gonna lie. I think the best video from this year, in terms of the NBA, is that one where it's like play the air guitar. You guys see that one?
Yeah, I said that one.
Oh, bro,
Yeah.
that's my favorite shit. All right, Christian, 1 to 4.
Give me one.
1. Russell Westbrook.
Oh, fuck.
All right, Rubes, 2 to 4. Two to 4, Rubes. Oh, 3? Oh, this is our first like non-active player. The glove, Gary Payton. But again, these are our players at their peak. So we're not talking no bum ass 2021, 2022 Russell Westbrook. We're talking 2020 20 game for Nipsey Hussle Russell Westbrook if you want. But Christian for Russell Westbrook. In 3, 2, 1, go.
All right. Well, if we are really going back into the primes, let's remember that Russell Westbrook is a 2-time MVP. I believe both of those, or if not both, at least one was on a triple-double year. That being said, in his prime, Russell Westbrook has been a pretty decent player, and in my opinion, he is a three-level scorer. I mean, in most ways than not, he obviously won't be as reliant, but that's not a debatable fact. Like, this guy is like I think the most athletic player of all time. Let's be honest. He definitely is a plus defender. His average close to 2 steals in multiple seasons, and obviously, given that Gary Payton in most senses wasn't as offensively agile, I just don't see a situation where he can beat Russell Westbrook on the floor, offensively or defensively.
Hi, it looks like Ruben's ready. Okay, Rube. 3, 2, 1, go.
Gary Payton. Let's do a quick hit here. Defensive Player of the Year, Steals Leader, All NBA First Team twice, All NBA Second Team 5 times, All NBA Third Team twice, All Defensive First Team 9 times, All Rookie Team, NBA Champion as well, and 9-time NBA All-Star. You're talking about a guy who's averaged 24 points in one of his best seasons, one of the best defenders in the league. And while people say athleticism for Russell Westbrook, oh, he's got the ability to jump out the gym, Gary Payton was one of the most mobile players in the NBA, and at the time was one of the most athletic. And don't forget the fact that the dude is also 6'4". He played with greats like Sean Kemp. He had the ability to defend guys like Michael Jordan, and he was a primary defender on the GOAT. So when you're defending the GOAT, you best believe an inefficient player like Russell Westbrook, who can't shoot the ball from 3, is going to have a lot of trouble against a guy like Gary Payton.
Aight. We're talking about a man who gives out back shots. Sean Kemp's like top 5 all time, man. Alright, Christian, your rebuttal. 3, 2, 1, go.
We're talking about all these accolades, but at the end of the day, like I do think, stats wise, we really need to look at these players. Russell Westbrook, 24 points in one season, great. Gary Payton, Russell Westbrook does that on a nightly basis still to this day. And, as a three-point shooter, he's obviously not going to be as agile, but I don't think that argument can be made on the blacktop where Gary Payton is not going to be a three-point shooter as a 90s player.
Okay. Rube. 3, 2, 1, go.
best 3-point shooting season he had was 33%, which is the league average. So the guy can shoot from the field, he can shoot from the perimeter, and he can defend those best players. Counting stats don't matter in this position because if he's rebounding, it's off his own shot, and he's not getting any assists. Gary Payton is one of the all-time greats on both ends, and there's a reason he's also an NBA Hall of Famer. The dude can do everything on the court on both ends, and there's not much Russell Westbrook can do on any given night.
All right, before DJ, you make your argument, and I'm not trying to make a counter argument, but just remember we were debating that Zion couldn't shoot threes, and this guy said a league average of 30, like literally around the same number. So uh, I know I'm going off the clock here, but
Russell Westbrook can't shoot either, so it kind of negates the argument.
I mean, in his best season, he shot 34%. It's pretty much the same argument.
Which is why they negate each other. So we got to look at the other factors.
Yeah, I mean, okay, we'll look at the other factors: 2-time MVP and all these useless awards that Gary Payton.
First of all, he's only 1-time MVP, 2-time All-Star MVP, but yeah, you look at the All-Star MVPs, I think, but I will say, I gotta give this one to Christian. I think the thing that won it for him was when he said that he was on 90s players. And I think, as Gilbert Arenas said, these guys think their shit don't stink. Granted, I don't think Gary Payton is one of those players that would not be successful in this year, in this generation. But I think when Christian mentions the athleticism... Huh?
He was a primary defender on Michael Jordan, and he was one of the most impactful defenders on Michael Jordan during his career.
Hey. That's MJ. That's 1 in a million.
MJ still beat him. No.
Gary Payton has a chip, man.
Hey, Russell Westbrook, he go win. I don't know about no chip, but
if I'm being completely honest, Russell Westbrook just has had the worst luck in his career. This dude ended up on the Wizards. It's unfortunate. This guy's luck at a chip has been washed for a while.
I don't know if that has been watched. I think it's that. I think Russell Westbrook is probably, outside of his 3-point shooting, is probably one of the perfect blacktop players, just based off the fact that he a dog. This dude literally looks like a pit bull.
Yeah, we should bring this into 2K one day.
We should.
We should.
If Russell Westbrook's type of play has always been predicated on transition, not on a dead set. So I don't know. It's tough. But even in the sense, I don't know if Gary Payton, even if in this time could now that we're past the arguments, I don't know if Gary Payton's a guy who could stand in front of Russell Westbrook, athleticism wise, as good as Gary Payton was.
I think he'd be like Drew Holiday.
Actually, that's a lie because that pretty much negates my conversation of him guarding Mike. MJ to this day could still be the greatest. His athleticism was unseen, so it's kind of I don't know. It's a tough argument. It's definitely different types of athleticism too, though.
Yeah, explosive versus just being Michael Jordan. I feel like he's a walking cement wall.
Yeah, and MJ was a 3-level scorer too.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think the closest thing to MJ's game, I would honestly say, is DeMar DeRozan. In that's not his primary weapon, but him operating in the mid-range.
Oh, yeah. At least score from anywhere.
Yeah, just from a play style, not actual accolades and all that shit. But all right.
I think when he's healthy, Kawhi is the best. In my opinion.
Actually, yeah, that's a better comparison.
Kawhi is career a much better perimeter shooter than Mike.
Yeah,
I mean, think about Kawhi Leonard made Michael Jordan smile, so he doing something right.
Kawhi's the best player of all time. Let's just be honest.
All right, Christian, your potential switches are Kyrie Irving and Damian Lillard. Would you like to switch?
Oh, wait, that means one of us will get Kyrie, one of us will get Damian Lillard. Oh,
if you choose to switch.
All right, let's do it. I think we should do that debate.
Okay. So we'll say 1 is Kyrie, 2 is Damian Lillard. I think this has potential to be. There's gonna be some heat. All right. Okay. You got Kyrie
So
Irving. I have Dame Dollar.
all right, let me just pull this up very quickly.
All right, let me set all this up. Bang, bang, bang. Okay, I'm going for Damian Lillard in 3, 2, 1, go. Now, when it comes to the clutchest player of all time, it's Damian Lillard. There is no other player that could take a 40, 30 footer with no fear and be able to drain that shit. Damian Lillard is a guy who's the equivalent of a lot of things. A lot of these great NBA players. He's a Charles Barkley, MVP level player. I don't know if he'll ever win a chip just based off his situation. But when it comes to single players on the blacktop, I don't think Kyrie Irving can hang with Damian Lillard. You know, Kyrie Irving got all that fancy dribbling shit, but Damian Lillard, we've seen here and there, has the ability to clamp up. I think he'll definitely do that on Kyrie Irving. And then with Damian Lillard, if Kyrie's not guarding him fucking tight as Gary Payton would, Damian Lillard gonna shoot that thing. Damian Lillard has the ability to score on all three levels. He's one of the best shooters in the world, in my opinion. When it comes to like the range and the prowess, I would say he's better than Steph. Steph obviously is in his own league, but Damian Lillard, the most clutchest, the most insane, and the dude. But all right, Christian, 3, 2, 1, go.
All right, so I think the argument of not being able to hang is like going to be irrelevant for this whole like kind of conversation, just because both of them are like hanging around the same height. They're both agile players, but you know, Kyrie is known to be the best player with the best handles of all time. Like, you know, we can throw in Allen Iverson, but let's just continue with my argument. That being said, I think when we're talking about the clutch, Kyrie is severely underrated. And I say that because of his shot on Steph Curry in that finals game. I think that, that was like a cemented shot in his career. And, you know, if we talk about rings, it's 1-0. Um, I don't think we need to go into statistics too much because truthfully, Kyrie is like the most like unorthodox point guard we've seen in quite a long time. He's like quite slithery with like averaging like close to like pretty much 1.5 steals for like all of his prime career. And obviously he's been a 20 points per game player. Um, yeah.
Okay, rebuttal in 3, 2, 1, go. Now, if you replace Kyrie Irving with Damian Lillard, I think LeBron James has more rings. I think, in my opinion, Damian Lillard, just with his ability to hang in the clutch, his ability to score on all three levels, to be consistent, I think is unmatched. There's a reason this guy's on the NBA 75, and the fact that he does have rings. But the fact that he has scored 30 in a season, this dude has a 30 bomb. I don't know if Kyrie Irving has that in him in a season. And Kyrie Irving not going to be able to play half the games on the blacktop. All right, Christian, your rebuttal. 3, 2, 1, go.
All right. So I think when we're talking about like actual shooting percentages, one thing that I haven't mentioned is that Kyrie on his career is close to being a 50-49 player with 47% from field goal percentage and 39% from three. And that's not accounting for his prime stats or his prime career stats where he's averaged 56% from 2 point, and then he's had multiple 40% 3 point years. So I think in terms of you know, the whole talk of LeBron rings, I think LeBron has as many as he's gonna get. Jordan's the GOAT. That's the end of the conversation.
Some good arguments made, man.
Who you got, Rube?
Let me think on it for a sec because the whole thing about Dame shooting the long ball is important because if he can just check up top and shoot the thing, that's a huge thing. But I like that Christian, and you kind of helped him with the argument, DJ, about this. You basically cemented his point that he is a blacktop player and he's perfectly made for the blacktop. And you both kind of said defensively that they both kind of wash each other out, which is true. They're both, in terms of man-to-man defense, they're both negatives. But then Christian did bring up the fact that Kyrie Irving has been a steal a game kind of player, and he's actually been underrated as a as a system defender. And then he also hit one of the biggest shots in NBA history, and that was a huge one. But Dame's clutch game winner and his ability to play in the clutch is huge because that means under pressure, like his ability to score is above anybody else, which is pretty much true. So this for me right now is a standstill. But I am going to give a very slight edge to Christian.
Fuck.
I'm going to give him the very slight edge to Christian because you did help him with the argument regarding his ball handling. And when it comes to the blacktop, both guys are going to be up in each other's faces. And while Dame is a great shooter, his bag just isn't as deep as Kyrie Irving's. And Dame is also not a well-known shooter from within the range. He can attack. He's a very analytical player. He attacks the rim or he shoots from three, while Kyrie Irving's ability to score and create shots from anywhere on the floor, he touched on that. And so that kind of epitomizes what the blacktop is. So I think DJ used that best advantage, and you kind of helped him a little bit there. So I'll give the very slight edge to Christian.
Dang. Okay, I respect that. If there's anybody I'd want to lose to, is Kyrie. People forget, Kyrie Irving went fucking 50, 40, 90 last year.
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah. He's like almost a career 50, 40, 90 player. Like, that's pretty insane. Like, you think about his handles and you think about like his selfishness, but this dude is like a pretty well up there player. Like, probably still the second best guard in the league.
Yeah, I think if they actually did like an NBA 1-on-1 tournament, I think Kyrie wins it, in my opinion.
I mean, he literally just dropped 50 today.
Yeah, and it's like the second most efficient of all time.
Yeah, so yeah, it's a slight edge, and that's probably.
If I had to lose to anyone, I'm glad it's Kyrie Irving.
I feel like he's the hardest black player to like go up against.
Yeah, when you brought NBA 75, that almost won it for you. Considering the fact that his stature is also like on the big stage, but it's hard to argue the fact that he had the biggest shot to win the championship. So it's like it's very hard to. I don't know.
Hey, all I'm saying, all that was possible because of J.R. Smith.
Freaking guy.
Nah, but hey, this was a fun one. Shoot, y'all got anything to say before we end off here?
Appreciate y'all for tuning in. Keep tuning in, and thank you guys for all our supporters and new supporters that come through. We appreciate you guys.
Christian?
Yeah. I mean, it's been a blast as always. I think I've gotten the most heated I've ever gotten in, this whole podcast realm we've got going on. But I mean, for those who are listening, I guess for those who are listening, share the podcast with people. Like, we'd love to hear feedback from whoever's listening too. I'm always open to criticism and just, getting better so we can, keep doing this.
100%. With that, back shots. Nah, but for real. In all honesty, stay safe, stay blessed. We will see you all around. Have a good one.